In early May 2025, in Omaha, Nebraska, the United States, people around the world witnessed a quiet yet historic farewell at the just concluded 2025 Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholders meeting. 94-year-old Warren Buffett announced that he would retire by the end of this year, and this would also be the last time he delivered a speech of this kind on behalf of the company. During this meeting, Buffett also announced that he would hand over the management of the company to his deputy Greg Abel, who is currently in charge of the energy and railway businesses, instead of his son Howard, nor any of the numerous other candidates for succession that had been rumored in the outside world before. In this speech, Buffett not only announced the above-mentioned news and reported on the company's operating situation as usual, but also, the stock god who has always been not very interested in politics actually publicly criticized the trade war policy led by the Trump administration in his speech. Today, let's talk about this topic. Warren Buffett, a renowned capitalist who has come through the Great Depression era, stated at the meeting, trade should not be used as a weapon. He also said that the United States is already a very great country. From a country that didn't even exist 250 years ago, it has now become the #1 in the world. Buffett's words are full of wisdom. It is tantamount to directly delivering a powerful blow to the slogan "Make America Great Again," and it is obvious that he is mocking Trump. What he means is that Trump has turned the United States, a country that hasn't really endured much hardship, into a country that is creating hardships out of nothing. In Buffett's view, Trump's Make America Great Again campaign is essentially a form of self-hypnosis for nostalgic individuals. They pretend that the greatness of their country has been snatched away, and now their goal is to regain that greatness. However, the problem is that the United States ranks among the top in various fields such as military, politics, economy, technology, and culture in the world. Who dares to say that it is not great? Buffett's words reveal a simple truth. The United States has been a country developing upwards since its founding until now. What has truly made the United States great has never been border blockades, high walls and tariffs, but rather the openness to talents from all over the world, the freedom of the market, and the flexibility of the system. However, Trump and his supporters have hypothesized a group of enemies and launched a trade war to fight these enemies to the finish. As a result, American citizens have to spend more money on purchasing goods, and the industrial chains of some American enterprises have been broken, causing them to suffer losses. Therefore, Buffett's speech at the shareholders' meeting can be regarded as the most lethal critique of Trumpism. He said that the trade war is a huge mistake, and that countries around the world each have their own areas of expertise, and everyone should do what they are good at. In Buffett's opinion, the trade war has not only damaged the American economy, but also torn apart the trust among allies. Countries such as the European Union, Japan, Mexico, and Canada, which were once partners of the United States, are now reconsidering their relationships with the United States. Essentially, Buffett's words point out that the current international trade order, including the financial order, is actually established and dominated by the United States itself. As a result, the United States is at the top of the global division of labor. The reason why Americans can enjoy inexpensive consumer goods, high-quality services, and a strong US dollar is not because American-made products are cheaper than others, but because Americans have outsourced industries with low added value and retained industries with high added value. The transformation of the industrial structure in the United States is not what many people call hollowing out of industries, but rather an active upgrade and global layout. Take Apple and Tesla as examples. They have set up their assembly plants in countries like China, India, and Vietnam because the human resources and environmental protection standards in the United States are no longer suitable for large-scale development of such industries. On the other hand, giants like Boeing, Google, and Microsoft still remain in the United States because research and development, design, patents, high-end manufacturing, data, and the financial control chain, etc., are the most profitable links in the global value chain, so they need to However, this situation, which is originally an advantage for the United States, has been distorted in the narrative of populists like Trump. They seem to be saying that if the factories in the United States are gone, the country will be finished. But that's not the case. The industries in the United States have not disappeared, they have been upgraded. And the jobs have not been lost, they have been transformed and upgraded. In the United States, middle and low-income white middle-class individuals form the core voter base of Trump. Many of them were once factory workers in the Rust Belt or small local business owners, and they have been significantly impacted by globalization. These people feel forgotten and sacrificed. While they witness the closure of their former factories, they fail to notice that online, purchased goods are incredibly inexpensive. Given that prices in the US are already relatively low, they complain about the disappearance of American manufacturing, yet they use iPhones made in China, wear jeans produced in Bangladesh, and consume lamb imported from Australia. Trump has precisely exploited the misconceptions of this group. He tells them that the greatness of the US and their jobs have been stolen by other countries, but he doesn't inform them that globalization enables them to enjoy lower mortgage interest rates and cheaper oil prices. Even poor Americans can lead a more extravagant life compared to the majority of people around the world. Trump's slogan, "Bring manufacturing back to the US," may sound appealing, but in today's America, it is an impossible mission. For instance, Nike no longer manufactures shoes in the US. Instead, through design, brand control, and pricing, it captures the lion's share of profits. This represents a typical American industrial model. This is not a sign of decline, but rather the ultimate manifestation of American industrial efficiency. If Nike were forced to resume production in the US, it would inevitably lead to a substantial increase in production costs, price hikes for products, and a misallocation of American capital to low-value, added sectors, ultimately sidelining truly high-end industries. It's like asking a professor from Tsinghua University to stay at home and teach their kindergarten-aged child. On the surface, it may seem like keeping the benefits within the family, but in terms of cost, effectiveness, and efficiency, it would be better to send the child to a kindergarten or other early education institutions. As one of the most successful operators in the global capital market, Buffett understands this well. For decades, he has refrained from investing in heavy industries and instead has a preference for companies like Coca-Cola, Apple, insurance companies, and the financial sector. He knows that what truly keeps the US at the forefront globally is not steel mills, coal mines, or Nike shoes, but rather the maximization of capital efficiency under global division of labor. Of course, it must be acknowledged that globalization has indeed brought about a drastic restructuring of the US industrial structure, causing some Americans to lose their jobs. However, this is not the fault of globalization, but rather a problem with the US distribution mechanism. For example, Europe has faced similar situations, but with universal healthcare, a robust basic education system, and unemployment benefits, it has been able to provide a safety net for affected individuals. As a result, European workers have not rebelled as strongly as their American counterparts. Canada has mitigated the pain of de-industrialization through union safeguards and lifelong training programs. The US, however, is a different story. With exorbitant college tuition fees, many American families cannot afford to send their children to college, leaving them with no choice but to take factory jobs. The US has a subpar welfare system, expensive healthcare, and a largely ineffective vocational retraining system. Successive US politicians have been reluctant to confront these issues head-on. In fact, not only Trump and the Republican Party, but also Democratic politicians like Biden have failed to fully address these problems. The Affordable Care Act Obamacare, introduced during the Obama era, has not been very successful in its implementation in the US, but this is a separate topic that we won't delve into in detail here. Therefore, those who support Trump haven't actually had their jobs stolen by foreigners. Their sense of loss is, to a large extent, a result of the flaws in the US domestic system. The slogan "Make America Great Again" precisely caters to their complex emotions of pride, anger, and powerlessness. Trump is not truly aiming to make America great again. He simply shifts the blame for the US's current problems onto foreign countries and immigrants to avoid the much-needed institutional reforms in the US. If Trump continues down this path, he will push the US into the abyss of industrial downgrading, trade contraction, and institutional dysfunction. When Buffett describes Americans as creating problems where there are none, he is not actually mocking them. Instead, he is reminding them that the US is currently in the most advantageous position in the global division of labor and that they should not be misled by Trump's slogans and ruin their good lives. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching.